Hello there. You have Morgan Petty again from Rethink Retail. I'm joined by the amazing Anna Barberoff. She's the general manager of PepsiCo Labs, and PepsiCo Labs is has to identify, partner with, and support startups providing solutions that stand to solve today's business problems and challenges. And I'm also joined by Evan Havorka. He is the vice president of product and innovation at Albertsons Media Collective, where he and his team design and build innovative marketing technology that drives profitability for brands. His 20 plus year industry experience across innovation, data, privacy, and business has allowed Evan and his team to redefine what's possible for Albertsons retail media offerings and the results that they're bringing to the table. Last but not least, from Commerce Ventures, we have Matt Nichols. Commerce Ventures partners with pioneering companies that enable and innovate customer shopping, spending, saving, as well as consumers' ability to secure their own assets. So Matt leads the firm's commerce infrastructure and retail technology investment team. So today we're going to be talking about retail media networks. Anna, I want to hear your perspective because I know, as I mentioned earlier, your team has launched a few programs where you're calling for solutions for instance, that retail demand accelerator program and that digital marketing program. So what new technologies are you testing to support your retail media network strategy?
Yeah, so those are very exciting programs led by our commercial team in the company and in PepsiCo Labs. And the digital marketing program is actually the latest one. We launched it 2 weeks ago. We met a few startups that we think are relevant for a few critical buckets that we're trying to solve. And those buckets are, one of them is how do we better connect to our consumers at their kind of cultural and the right moment. For example, how can we connect with next generation of sports fan? How can we tap into micro communities? So where can we really address our consumers in their kind of right moments and in their passion points? The second is how do we enable personalization at a very, very large scale? So how can we easily develop and deploy content? How can we find scalable turnkey solutions? How can we create kind of AI generated personalization and impact, etc. That will be the second bucket in use cases. And the third one will be how can we optimize our media planning and execution, again, at a very large scale. So how can we create visibility across the brands and campaigns, how we can create and provide offline and online effectiveness, how can we measure performance marketing solutions, etc. So those are kind of the three buckets that will soon funnel into a few pilots. We're hoping 4 to 6 pilots that with 4 to 6 leading solutions so we can kind of test. And then if it works, we can scale at a global level.
Very good. And Matt, I know your team also partners with solution providers, as we mentioned before, those that help consumers shop, spend, secure, and save. So how do you see retail media networks playing into the customer experience?
I think they're incredibly important, and really affect what people buy. And I think the best way to think about them is what is the digital equivalent of an end cap or sort of product placement on the shelves. I think about the barbecue sauce that I currently love was discovered because I saw it in an end cap, and I think transferring that to digital is incredibly important. But I think probably what's more important is what retail media networks will do for retailers and brands. I think I would argue that the revenue potential for retail media networks, so that effectively the digital equivalent of end caps and slotting fees, could be higher than they were in the physical space. Partially because, one, they're more measurable. So the ability to actually measure how well those are doing and adapt them to be more effective. I think more targetable. There's always this goal of how do we deliver the right product to the right consumer, but in a physical format, you can't be moving stuff around the shelves in real time as Anna walks by and then changing for Evan. That just doesn't work, but you really can in a digital experience. So I think both of those things will drive the potential for it to be bigger. But I think the biggest question is who's going to derive the most amount of value from this sort of shift from physical to digital. You've got the retailers, you got the brands, and importantly, an intermediary, folks like Instacart, who are trying to take a big piece of this revenue in the middle. So I think the bigger question is, it's going to happen, it's going to be powerful, but who is going to benefit the most in that ecosystem, I think is probably the most interesting question to be resolved.
Very good. And I know you're aware of a lot of the front runners when it comes to the solutions that are powering retail media networks today. So who are you seeing as the front runners?
Yeah, I think you can, from the technology perspective, you can really bucket into two categories. You have one's a group of players who are basically building an ad network, so connecting retailers on one side and brands on the other. But we think actually the more interesting model is technology that enables the retailers to own this. Right? It is so fundamentally critical to both their profitability and operations that they would want to own it. So we're investing in a company called Kevel, Kevel, that powers, allows retailers to launch their own retail media networks because they already have the relationships with all these suppliers, but clearly don't want to spend or would prefer not to spend a huge amount of money developing this kind of internal ad tech infrastructure to be able to deliver this. So they are powering over 100 retailers, marketplaces, and apps to be able to deliver sort of a retail media network in a box to your endemic suppliers.
Very good. Yeah, great. And Evan, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute because I know that Albertsons Media Collective is taking some big steps in retail media network space as well. So first off, can you introduce us to Albertsons Media Collective?
Yeah, thank you. The Media Collective at Albertsons is our latest evolution of monetization. So it was done primarily by a third party prior to a year and a half ago when the company decided to invest in an in-house team. So for as much as we can, we bring the building of the products, the design of the solutions, the partnerships with our CPGs and ad tech experts in-house. And we've done it with a group of people, industry leaders that did this at other retail media networks. I was at Target Roundel for a good number of years doing it there. We've got a bunch of experts from other RMNs bringing their expertise. Doing it in-house is probably the biggest upgrade to what a CPG would get out of partnering with Albertsons now. We've got a lot deeper capabilities with incrementality, with our store sales measurement. So everything we build includes the store sale as well as the online sale, which is huge for some CPGs who still sell 90% of their stuff in store. And it really just lets us shine a light on the things that make Albertsons great, right? The localization of our store, our loyalty program that's got super high penetration, high frequency customer shopping, and then really strong digital adoption of our app and site. We're able to, put all that together into one thoughtful strategy and bring a product vision that reflects Albertsons' goals to market. And then we live right next to our merchants and inventory team, data teams. So we get to really draft off of a lot of the hard work that those teams bring to our CPGs as well.
Very good. And I know, again, your team has made some pretty amazing moves to improve the way that retailers and CPG brands are working together to really maximize the impact of the retail media network. Can you explain the co-op garden approach that your team has taken?
Yeah, often the best way to describe that is describing what it's not. So I'll do the opposite. The opposite of a co-op garden would be a walled garden. That's the most derivative answer. We see a lot of walled gardens popping up, partly to protect data privacy, but partly to protect revenue streams too. And it just creates a layer of non-transparency for the marketer. Our co-op garden approach would be the opposite of that. So we're not letting ego drive our vision. We're not letting old business models limit what we consider a new idea. We really want to co-design and co-measure our programs with the CPGs and the ad tech partners that we work with to see what's sustainable and see what's good. There's a lot of new privacy standards in place and a lot of new tools to achieve those, like clean rooms, which we're going to get into. So moving forward with a co-op garden mantra has been super eye-opening for me. It's opened the doors to a lot of partnerships with CPGs who want to co-build and not feel like every conversation is focused on the sale or the investment in the RMN. And the co-op garden lets us build the things that make both of our companies happy, right? It lets the ad tech expert shine. It lets our assets shine in a privacy safe way and gives the CPG a little more access and insights into what they were investing in. I would say it also is part of our late mover advantage. So going down that path of building everything ourselves, owning and controlling the ad tech stack, it just leads to some tough conversations on self-service or being transparent in a clean room with a progressive CPG like a PepsiCo. So a walled garden for us just was very limiting in our ability to innovate. So we quickly moved into something a little better.
So Christy Argilian, SVP of Albertsons Media Collective, has said it's a post-cookie world and it's time for traditional retail media networks to change. So with that heavy focus on consumer privacy and compliance, Albertsons Media Collective has recently piloted what you just referred to as a clean room or a clean room initiative, and you're doing so alongside Pinterest and LiveRamp. So can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of a clean room, how this technology enables marketing attribution and insights without creating consumer privacy risks?
Yeah, it's a tough question, one that's been around for many years. The clean room concept's been hotly debated, and if you've been to a conference in the last couple of years, it's got a lot of hype and a lot of interest. I would say the clean room, a few years from now, we'll look back and think of it kind of like our cloud provider. It's a really key piece on how we deliver value to our investors, to our CPG customers, but it really isn't a solution on its own, right? It's what is it in service of, which is still an exciting area to be a part of. We get to work with LiveRamp. We've talked a lot with InfoSum and Habu. There are so many cool new things you can do with this tool, but it really isn't the solution. It's what does Anna and the PepsiCo team need from this new social integration? What do they need from our ability to show inventory or in stocks or item data cleanup tasks in a privacy safe way that they couldn't do before? The clean room enables that. It doesn't provide that out of the box. And so a good example would be Pinterest. They showed up with solutions around how we could do incrementality and closed loop measurement within their social platform. They couldn't have done that safely without the clean room, but they had to bring a lot of IP and data and smart builders to that place. And then we did the same, and now we've got an actual product, which is closed loop measurement on social using targeted audiences. So that's the cool part of it. And LiveRamp's been a big part of that journey for us as well. So we have other clean room capabilities outside of Pinterest, building that with other social platforms and directly with CPGs who maybe want to do something custom or bespoke. But it's an exciting space. It's evolving really quickly. I think it's definitely a confidence boost in how brands and retailers think about achieving their privacy goals. But it should feel like an innovation spark for CPGs and ad tech players of how they can partner with retailers. It's another safe tool in our tool belt to build together.
Why is industry standardization important for the growth of retail media networks at large?
Yeah, this one, I'd love Anna and Matt's point of view, so jump in. So I've got a lot to say here. It might put the audience to sleep. Standardization is critical in all aspects of ad tech, right? You saw it early on with the IAB creative standards when Pepsi was marketing across 10,000 websites. Hey, why don't we have one common definition of what our ad units could look like? RMNs have not achieved that level of standardization. And so the result has been a lot of smart, hardworking individuals at the 3, 4, 5, 6, now 24 RMNs that have popped up are each going down that journey on their own. Because we don't have a common set of standards to build to, we have our own unique login process for this piece of our puzzle. And a lot of them still have unique creative ad unit definitions, which is kind of crazy to think about. Less crazy things to think about would be we all have different methodologies, different attribution windows, different KPI definitions, because that's just how the product was built. That's how the product came to market. Those don't really let the assets of the RMN shine, right? The unique thing about a Walmart product or an Albertsons product or a Lowe's product is their unique shopper, the products that they sell, the performance of that media. It's not the integration of that to Pinterest or the definition of a KPI or even the way you access, self-service search. Those are fairly commodity types of services. They don't add a tremendous amount of value to the RMN, but when they're all different, they add a tremendous amount of friction and weight to the CPG and the agencies trying to traffic across 5 different RMNs. And so I think as an industry, RMNs can do better, and we need to do better by standardizing the things that don't really matter to us. We still get to own and control traffic. It's still our people doing things on our properties. That's amazing. That's the value that Pepsi wants. But having 5 different definitions of an attribution model, or reports closing on a Tuesday for this RMN, a Sunday for that RMN. This one's on Sunday as well, but it's 2-week delay. It just forces someone to think of this industry as a little bit chaotic and a little bit disconnected, and that they may need to look elsewhere to get consistent measurement, for example. So we don't want that to happen. We think we can hold hands on the things that don't separate and differentiate RMNs and build them better together with consistency.
I totally agree. I mean, clearly standardization has definitely boosted every category that it's come to. And ultimately, I think for this to really go even to the next level, I think advertisers are going to want to place their ads where they're already buying ads, and they're going to want to get the measurement of those results in the places they're already getting measurements. And your point, Evan, exactly. Without standardization, it's really hard to do either of those things. And has it stopped people? No. Obviously, they're spending billions of dollars already, but for them to spend more, I think removing that friction will make a big difference.
Yeah, no, perfect. You were both perfect. I think we agree there's a lot of money invested in those tools, and the money will flow to whoever can prove better ROI, right? If it's simple, if it's transparent, if it can show the value, then this is where the money's going to go.
Yeah, maybe one double click into that, and I love your POV. If we don't do this, if RMNs don't hold hands and say, hey, we're going to use an industry standardization of audience or measurement KPI, the CPG will figure it out on their own, right? There's work already happening and has been happening at Pepsi for years and other places. And you'll come up with your own way to measure across. And we may or may not like it. We may benefit or be penalized in unfair ways, but in ways that we don't get to see or touch or control or have a conversation about. So standardized measurement is coming to RMNs regardless of whether they want to participate or not. It's just if you participate, we can all have a conversation on what's best for the industry, even if your company may be penalized on this area but benefits from that area of standardization. At least you know what your guardrails are going to be. You're going to know how Pepsi's going to evaluate that media investment. Yeah. If we don't standardize, the measurement's still coming, and we won't get a seat at that table to say whether that's good or bad or how you should consider why that RMN is special.
Yeah, you're right. You want to move to kind of discussing how we can all grow together and not debating the numbers and the data. So the
inefficiency. Yeah, that's my last point. How many calories are we burning on things that don't move the needle? In my case, we've got, let's say, I'm going to throw a number out there, 10% of our engineering and product team are building things that actually make life harder for the clients. And that's true of every RMN because we've got this special little thing going on in this special manifestation of search or display. It's all common commodity types of things manifested into things that we like to put marketing speak on top of. In some cases, it's worthwhile. It's a unique, special thing that only Walmart or PepsiCo might have. But that should represent 10% of the investment. Everything else we do, it's display, social search, e-commerce, rich media. There's a layer of standardization there that doesn't hurt the retail media network and actually would benefit them from a resource efficiency perspective.
What other advice do you guys have for CPGs and grocers who are looking to use data more intelligently without breaking privacy commitments?
Similar view as Evan, which is there's a lot of power in owning this yourself. And I think not everybody is at the scale of Albertsons and probably can't build it themselves. But I do think that owning this, and if you're not big enough to build, utilize a technology provider that can help you own it, I think will be a key differentiator to winning here, personally.
Companies like Kevel can help lift that load too. Maybe you don't have to own. We certainly don't own our own DSP, for example. We use Trade Desk and DV360. I think it would be foolish to bring that in-house at this stage. So there's lots of things that you can architect without owning, but letting your assets speak directly to the CPG's needs can only come from doing pieces of it in-house. And then ultimately, moving to outcomes, right? We should be talking about not access to log level data, customer data. Those things are always going to lead to privacy concerns. Really what the CPGs want is the outcome and the transparency and the trust that should be there with it. And then we can start having funner conversations around let's bring in merch integration. Let's actually tie media to that new product launch and let them maybe bid on an end cap in store and online. And really let the relationship in its totality shine, not just a media conversation and a merch conversation. Everything should be on the table there. That comes with trust. It's a step away from granular consumer data, but it's using that to make better decisions together.
Yeah, and I think you think about what was it turbocharged Google's ad business early on was everybody knew that you put $1 in, you knew exactly how many dollars you got out, and as soon as people knew that with certainty, it took off. And I think the same thing could probably happen for ad network for retail media networks.
I'm thrilled with the innovation, and I think there's so much more to come when it comes to RMNs. So. Hope to see you guys again next year for the Grocery Trends Report and to hear all the updates of what we've accomplished. So thanks, Evan, Anna, Matt. You guys are tremendous. And thanks for joining again.